All right. And for the third and last time, hello everyone, and welcome to our new Skills Boost session. So as I said, this session is for LGBT activists. It's on paid promotions, which is a challenging task for many organizations and groups. It's challenging for many reasons. There is no clear understanding how algorithms work. It is clear that they sometimes play into polarization and discrimination. We are not going to talk about this aspect today, but rather we want to acknowledge that we see that, and we will focus on how to use the digital ads more strategically. And this session is a part of ILGA Europe strategic communication program that combines funding and learning opportunities for LGBT movements in Europe and Central Asia. So thank you everyone for joining, and also the ones who will be watching the tape afterwards. This session idea came from the requests sent to us by several activists who had practical questions, and we hope that within this session we can address some of them. And on that note, if you are struggling with a specific communication dilemma, you can email us. We are happy when we get suggestions with your questions, and they can serve as inspiration for future sessions as well. There will be time for questions and answers at the end of the session. So feel free to write them in the chat during. There will also be a moment in between, during the session, in the middle of the session, to address the questions. So please, anytime you have something, write it in the chat. And after the session, you will receive the presentation. You will receive an assignment as well today, which is of course optional. And if you will submit it to Show's email, maybe Show, you can already share that in, yes, thank you. So if you decide to do the assignment, you will also receive an individual feedback at the next session that's going to be on June 26th, which I think can be very valuable. So it's optional, but we invite you to do it. You will also have to register for the next session. Just a reminder. That is just, let's get the logistics out of the way first. I'm done with them now, and I will pass it to Show, so you can go in the content a bit more, into the interesting stuff. But please, everyone, enjoy the session.
I'll leave Jean to do the interesting stuff, but just to say that we've got previous skills boosts on lots of topics. It's nice to see lots of familiar names, but we also see lots of new people as well. But not all of you have been to all of them, so we will send also afterwards links. You can see previous skills boosts on everything from making campaign videos during lockdown, i.e. from your own living room, to data visualization, to how to do media interviews under pressure. So those recordings and those resources are there. And as Katja said, the topic of this session came up because some of you talked to Svetlana about your concerns about this topic. And so please do tell us, because we make these requests into future sessions. And one place where you can talk about these issues is the Facebook group for LGBTI conscious people, which ILGA Europe moderates. And so there's lots of sometimes interesting resources, questions that people raise there, and I put the link into the chat box. But I won't go into any more. I also don't think I need to introduce you, Jean, because you're going to introduce yourself a little bit, other than we're very grateful that you're coming to talk to us today and to do these two sessions with us.
Thanks so much, Show. Yeah, I'll get stuck in, will I? So yeah, welcome to the session on getting the most from your digital ads for ILGA Europe. I'm really delighted to be here. My name's Jean O'Brien. I am a digital consultant and designer, and I specialise in nonprofits. I'm also the founder of Digital Charity Lab, which is a social enterprise that builds digital skills in nonprofits. And there's a load of free and affordable resources at the Digital Charity Lab website. And that's my Twitter handle. If any of you are Twitterers, I'm still tragically addicted to Twitter, despite despite the situation. And I'm based in Dublin in Ireland. So what we're going to cover in today's workshop is a quick overview of the digital ads landscape, just like what's out there and what's worth looking at if you're a small organization with limited resources. I'm going to dive into Meta ad strategy in detail because Meta is, spoiler, it's the best digital ad channel. And I'm going to show you what's involved in setting up a lead ad campaign, which I think is one of the best uses of Meta for organizations with limited resources. We'll have time for questions and discussion. And what I really want you to come away from this session with is an understanding of how meta ads work, how the algorithm works, a kind of basic ad strategy that really you can apply to any kind of meta campaign. You might only be able to do a lead campaign at this point, but at some point you might go on to do donation campaigns or membership campaigns. And the same strategy, the same sort of strategic underpinning will work for any kind of meta ad campaign. And I think I struggled with meta ads for a long time until someone kind of showed me this sort of framework of how they work. And then it all fell into place for me. And now I use them a lot. I'm also going to share a strategy for a campaign that you can run on a low budget, and I'll go into more detail about that later. So that's what I want you to come away with. I will also recommend alternatives for zero budgets because I appreciate there are some organizations here that don't currently have an ad budget. So we can talk about what you can do to make the case for an ad budget and what you can do if you really have nothing to spend. There's also a takeaway guide that will be provided after this session. There is a lot to cover today. Meta is quite a complicated platform. So what I've done is provided a takeaway guide that goes into everything in a lot more detail. So it covers everything I'm going to talk about here today, and also lots of background reading and more explanations and links, so you can really just get stuck into doing your own meta ads. And that'll be circulated after the session. And yeah, if you have any questions, pop them in the chat. So just a quick rundown of paid digital now. So the situation we're in now, and we have been for a few years, it's very difficult to get a good return on just organic social media. And by organic, I mean just posts with no ad spend, just your regular feed posts, your reels, with no ad spend whatsoever. It's very difficult to get a good return through that. If anyone is currently getting a really good reach, engagement and results, as in people, taking actions, clicking through, donating from social media, just organic with no ad spend, I'd love to hear about it. So please do pop it in the chat. But for most organizations, it's very difficult to do that just with organic. The problem is, I'm sure you've all had this experience, you can have a video that does really well, and then the next one will do really badly. And it's just really, really inconsistent. And I find that really frustrating personally. You need to know a channel will work or not work. And if you've got a big campaign and an important message to be shared, you want to be able to say, right, we know if we go out and do all this on email or Facebook or Twitter, that it will actually reach people and move them to action. And the way social media is at the moment, often it's like buying lottery tickets. Sometimes it works, and most of the time it doesn't. So most organizations do need some kind of paid activity. It's very difficult to just do everything with no budget. And obviously, when you're a small organization with a limited budget, you need to choose the right channels. You can't be on every channel, and it doesn't work to take a small ad budget, say of €600, and try and use it on lots of different channels. It won't bring in any return. So it's really important to zoom in on the channels that work. And what I'd recommend is channels where you can get a good return and where you can manage the ads yourself. So you're not always having to pay freelancers or agencies to do the ads for you, because obviously that really increases the cost. So just a quick rundown of what's out there in the world of digital ads. There's obviously a huge amount. There's the whole Meta ecosystem, which includes Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp. It is highly effective. It is, as I said, it is probably the most effective ad channel. It's the one we'll focus on today. There's also LinkedIn. You can do LinkedIn ads. They tend to be good for high value prospects. So finding people that are potentially going to be, major donors or corporate fundraisers, that kind of thing. LinkedIn is very expensive, though. It's much more expensive cost per result than the other channels. So it's really only for big organizations that can go after, big corporate sponsors, that kind of thing. Twitter, as you know, is broken. It's just full of trolls. It's really difficult to make anything work on Twitter at the moment. I do know some organizations that are making ads work because so many advertisers have pulled out. The costs have gone down. But I just think it's a really, really problematic channel, particularly for LGBTI organizations. There's so many trolls. I would stay away from Twitter ads for any kind of small organization. And TikTok, you can run TikTok ads. It has quite a powerful ad algorithm. It's quite similar to Meta's. And obviously it's really good for reaching a young audience. The problem with TikTok is it's very difficult to get people to leave the channel and, you know, to click and go and take an action. It's really designed to just keep people scrolling and scrolling and watching videos. And it's not like other channels where people are happy to click links and go off. So I'd probably stay away from TikTok ads at the moment as well, unless you have a really big budget and you can potentially be testing multiple channels. There's also the whole Google ecosystem, which is huge. It, you know, it covers search ads, display ads that appear on other websites. There's the ads appear in the Google app on your phone. And obviously Google owns YouTube, so it covers all those video ads as well. There can be a really good return. Benchmarks are saying the charities are getting a good ROAS, which is return on ad spend. And that's a really important term when you're doing paid ads, is the return you get on the ads. But however, it does require significant budgets and expertise and time, and particularly time. It takes a while for Google to find the audiences. So it's not a channel that I would recommend, a paid channel I recommend if you're just starting out with digital ads. I think Facebook is a better one to start with. There is, however, the Google grant, and I'll go into a bit more detail about that in a minute, but some of you may already have this. It's a free ad program for charities where Google gives you free money for ads, and that's worth looking at. And of course, there's loads of other options. The digital ad landscape is huge. There's non-Google search. Microsoft Bing is good for an older audience, apparently. Some organizations are seeing good donations coming in from older supporters on Microsoft Bing. There's programmatic ads, which is basically if you've got a lot of money, you can go to an agency who will, you know, put your ad content into the system. It'll just automate all the buying and placement of ads. But this is really just for, you know, really, really big budgets. And there's obviously loads more you can be doing. And when you're a small organization, you can explore some of these options like influencer partnerships, sponsored content, podcast ads. But when you're starting off, I would say the ones to focus on are Meta and the Google grant. They're the ones that you can do with small budgets and limited resources. Yeah, I've spoiled myself. Get Meta ads. Yeah, the why of Meta ads is it has the most powerful ad algorithm. There's no other platform that really performs as well as Meta ads. It's so good at finding the audience. And I'll go into a lot more detail about why that is. And then the Google grant, because you will get a free ad budget, and it just means, you know, even if you have zero budget, you can potentially be getting money from Google to run ads. And Google is still very important. You know, as much as people are obsessed with social media, people do still search. They use voice search. They use search on their phone, and a lot of traffic to websites still comes from search engines. So just a very quick overview of Google grant ads. We don't have time to go into two channels today, but I'll just give you a little bit of an overview of how it works in case you're not familiar. It's a grant that Google gives to almost all charities. It is very easy to acquire. It's not like a huge grant application process. You don't have to write loads of impact proof. It's just a couple of forms that you fill out. And they give up to $10,000 a month in free search ads. It's really good for always on promotion of your brand. The best thing you can use Google grant ads for is just help people who are interested in what you're doing just find you. It's not as good for, say, campaigns or time bound stuff, but it's really good for just promoting your brand, promoting your services. And search audiences are really good, high quality audiences. They have intent, they're interested, they're actively searching as opposed to people passively scrolling on social media. And they're very likely to convert across a lot of different organizations. I've seen that the search, both organic and paid search, sends really good quality traffic. And a good use you can do with your grant account is you can gather data. So you can run Google grant ads for, say, a year, 6 months, a year, and then say, okay, we're doing really well on these keywords, but these keywords are out of reach because of the limit on the free budget. So now we can make a case to do paid Google ads as well and go after the higher value keywords. My organization, Digital Charity Lab, has an online training course in Google grant ads. So if you have the resources to get into this channel, you know that you don't need a budget, but you do need time. I have a discount code for this group, and we'll share that with you after the session. So before I get into Meta ads, I just wanted to quickly talk about zero budget options because I appreciate some people have no money at all. A thing you could look at to make the channel work is Facebook groups. A few years ago, Facebook changed the algorithm so groups get better reach and engagement than pages. And if you're on Facebook yourself, you probably see that you get more updates and notifications and posts from groups than you do from the pages that you follow. You can join existing groups. You know, if there's a group in your city for LGBT people, you can join that group and start. It's important not to spam and not to like just use it for promotion, but you can join and interact and see what people are talking about and look for opportunities to let them know about your work. You can also test out a group to organize an existing community. So if you've got a group of volunteers or activists, you can potentially use a Facebook group to organize them. I will say starting a Facebook group from scratch is tricky, and they need a lot of sort of care and feeding. You need to be constantly posting in them, responding to people, ensuring that people are posting. So they're not something you can just kind of do really easily. They do need to be you need to make sure you can moderate them and keep them going. But it's definitely something to explore if you have absolutely no ad budget. And then there's other channels. I mean, it is okay. I find often people are really nervous about the idea of not using Facebook and Instagram, but it is okay to not use these channels if you're very short of resources and they're not bringing anything in for you. It really is okay. I find people just have this, fixation that they have to have a presence in all these channels, and often you just don't. If it's not working for you, you don't need to be on it. In fact, Nike, the global sportswear brand, they don't post organic Facebook anymore. They just run ads, and they have all the resources and money and content and famous athletes and gorgeous people in the world, and they have given up on organic Facebook. So it's a perfectly valid choice to make. Don't waste resources on a channel that's not working. And yeah, there's other channels you can use that are either free or very cheap. Email obviously isn't free. You can get a free email platform up to about 1,000 subscribers, I think. Once there's more, you'll start paying. But it is very, very cheap compared to ads. It only costs a fraction of a cent to send an email. The Google Grant ads I mentioned. And WhatsApp groups can be really useful. You can also set up a WhatsApp broadcast channel for free, where people can't reply, but you can send them messages. And that can manage bigger groups than just a WhatsApp group. So it's an interesting platform to explore if you're completely out of budget. I would say though, in your organization, try to make the case for paid social. Meta recently announced that they are restricting what they call social and political content. So that's everything from political parties to NGOs and activists. They're restricting that on Facebook and Instagram. People need to go and opt in. They need to go into their settings, into some really complicated part of their settings, and say, yeah, I want to hear about social issues. Most people will not do that. Not, just they couldn't be bothered. So that's huge. That's going to have a big impact on, and is already having an impact on, how our content is seen. This only applies to organic content. It doesn't apply to ads. So you can still run ads on political and social issues and have them seen. So it's more important than ever to have a paid strategy in order to use these channels properly. So in terms of making a case, look at where budget can be moved. There may be budget that's being spent on something else that can be moved into this. For example, if you're boosting posts instead of doing proper ads, I would stop doing that and just run one proper ad campaign. Take all that small budget and put it into one proper ad campaign per year instead. And I will say, even if you're sitting here going, look, I'm not going to get any budget this year, I think it's still really important to understand the strategy behind the ads, because at some point you will be able to run them, or you might be in another organization where you're going to run them. And I think it's really important in digital to know how this core channel works, even if you can't implement it right away. So we have a little poll. I'm just interested to know what you're doing with Facebook and Instagram currently. So Katya, are you okay to activate that poll, please? Great. So I recently learned the hard way that a recording of a session doesn't pick up a poll. So I'm going to read out the poll. You can all read it and fill it out, please. But I'm asking you, I'm asking the group how they're currently using Facebook and Instagram. So the options are: we're just posting organic. We're not spending any money on these channels. We're doing organic posts and we pay to boost them. We're doing ads and organic posts. We're only doing ads. We don't use these channels at all because they don't work for us. And finally, we don't use these channels, but we would like to test them. So it's covering the whole gamut of options, from we're not using them to we've got a paid and organic strategy. So so we've got 83% of people have participated so far. So we're starting to see the results. The most popular choice is we do organic posts and pay to boost them. So about 40% of people are saying that they are doing organic posts and paying to boost them. Second after that is we're doing organic only, it's 36%. And then some people are doing both organic and ads. It's about 27% are doing organic and ads. And no one is just running ads and no organic, which I understand that's pretty rare. 3% are saying we don't use the channels at all because they don't work for us. And the same 3% are saying we're not currently using these channels, but we'd like to test them. So yeah, it's really interesting and useful for me to know where you are with the ads. And we see there is a big chunk of attendees here who are doing organic posts and paying to boost them. And I would recommend not doing that. And I'll go into more detail about why that is. So thank you very much. are we okay to end the poll? I think I see 2 people haven't participated, but I think we're close enough. I'll just click share results. So there's the results. You can see them now. So great. Thanks for participating. That's really useful for me to get that context on what you're doing. So I'm going to talk about meta ads now. I'll pause for questions in a bit because I appreciate there's a lot to take in. The core concepts of meta ads, or I'll start by talking about why meta ads. Meta ads have been described as the best media buying agency in the world. There's audience targeting on Meta like no other. There's no other channel that can do what Meta can do in terms of finding the right people for what you want your ads to do. And it is possible to get good results even with limited budgets. There are channels where I'd say there's no point going near them if you don't have a budget, like for example LinkedIn. But Meta, you can get good results, even if you only have a few hundred to spend. One of the things that Meta does really well is it's really, really easy and cheap to split test. So to test different variants of your creative and see which one gets the best results. Sorry, so that was a backup poll. So just to maybe get a quick show of hands, are people familiar with the concept of the marketing funnel, the framework? See a few nods, a few shakes. Okay, great. So we have a mixed level of understanding about it. So the marketing funnel is a framework that's used in communications and marketing and sales a lot. And what it does is it shows the steps people need to go through before they're ready to support you, right? So they need to be aware of you. They need to be interested in what you do. There are people who are aware of you who are not interested. Then they need to be willing to take some kind of action, like clicking through. Again, there's people who will engage with you on social media, but will never actually click through. Once they've clicked through and they've taken some kind of early stage action, then they need to be willing to convert. So conversion just means that they convert from being a visitor to actively supporting you. So something like having made a donation, signing up for your emails, signed up for an event, signed up to be an activist, something like that. And then once you've done something with them, you have the option then of moving them on to ongoing support. So you will have people in your network who are very loyal and help you out in multiple ways and recommend you to other people. So it just shows the stages people need to move through. And the reason it's this shape and it's narrow at the bottom is because you lose people at every stage, right? Only a very, very small percentage of the people who are aware of you will go on to become loyal, interested, advocates and supporters. And yeah, we think about the funnel, and the funnel is I just find like it's been around for a really long time, but I think it's one of the most useful frameworks because anytime you're doing any activity, you can think about where is this on the funnel? Is this an awareness and engagement thing, or is this a conversion thing? And to think about it, the awareness and engagement bits, that's when people are starting to know you and become interested in having a relationship with you. Those are not difficult to get, but you're not really getting high value out of those because those people aren't ready to donate or come to an event or sign a petition. When it comes down to actions and conversions, that's when they're becoming like a customer or a supporter. This is harder to get. It's harder to get people in at this stage, but they are much higher value. So this is when people are starting to give you money, support your work, advocate for you. And then the ones at the bottom are the most valuable of all because they're the ones you can really rely on. Who'll come back time and time again. So the funnel is a really important framework. And the reason I've mentioned the funnel is because Facebook is really good at targeting people at different stages of the funnel. A lot of ads will start at the top as just awareness and trying to pull people in. Facebook knows which people are likely to donate, which people are likely to sign up to come to an event, which people are likely to, sign a petition. And it's able to target people who are already halfway down the funnel. How it's able to do this is because it has so much data on its users. There's no other platform that has as much data on its users. Arguably Google, but Facebook is better at this data and it's more relevant data. So Facebook and Instagram have been around. Facebook's been around since 2008. Instagram was introduced a bit later. So they have all the activity, the data of all the activity that we've been doing on those apps, right? Liking and sharing and commenting. They have all that, but not just that. And that's huge because it's over a decade. Not just that. They also have the Facebook pixel is tracking activity on about 30% of websites on the internet. So the Facebook pixel, you're probably familiar, but just in case you're not, it's a little tracking code that advertisers put on their website, and then it feeds information back to Facebook. So Facebook knows if I go to Wikipedia and look up information about LGBTI rights, it knows if I've been to LGBTI organizations' websites, it knows if I'm on media sites reading about LGBTI issues. It just knows so much about its users. It is genuinely quite scary, but what makes it such a good ad platform. So the strategies that work, and these work across loads of different types of meta ad campaigns. And I think if you understand this framework for strategy, then you're in a really good shape for running good Facebook ad campaigns. So what you need to do with any kind of Facebook ad campaign is choose the right objective, set an adequate budget. And one of the biggest issues with Facebook ads is people often underspend on their ads. Use broad targeting, do creative split testing, give the campaign enough time, and use proper campaigns over boosted posts. And I'll go through each of these in more detail now. So just how meta ads work is when you go into meta ads and you set up a campaign, it asks you, you set up your campaign, you choose an objective, you choose your audience, and you set up your creative, your images and your text for your ads. And once the ads start running, Meta goes and finds the first 50 results. And results mean, like, if you've asked it for donations, it goes and finds the first 50 donations. If you've asked it for video views, it goes and finds the first 50. It always needs the first 50. This is a standard thing across meta ads. It needs the first 50. Once it has the first 50, it builds a statistical model to find more people like the first 50. So, for example, if it's a donation campaign and Show donates, and Katya donates, and Matej donates, it goes and finds more people like Show and Katya and Matej. That's how the Facebook ad algorithm works. And it has so much data on people, it knows this person is like this person has similar interests. And this is why it's been described as the best media buying agency in the world. It's incredibly powerful. When you think about the way digital ads used to work, it was just like, people who like us like this magazine, let's just put an ad in that magazine. That's so blunt, that the odds that you reach the right people are really low. But Facebook has this data, it can just go and show these people these ads in their feed. So the first 50 results are really, really important. Your ads will not work unless you get the first 50 results, because once it has the 50 results, it optimizes the campaign, right? The first 50, it's kind of going out and just testing with all kinds of different people. Once 50 people convert, or essentially, they get the results, then it starts to optimize. It goes, okay, now we know who the people are. We've shown this ad to loads of people. We found the 50 who actually are interested. And now we're going to go and find more like that 50. So without the first 50, it doesn't really optimize as well. And results are whatever you set as the campaign objective. So if you tell Facebook you want sales, you want people to go to your website and buy something, you need 50 sales. If you tell Facebook you want 50 leads, which is signups, you need 50 signups in order to optimize the campaign. So yeah, it could be conversions like purchases or donations. It could be leads, or it could be engagements. It could be something like people watching a video or liking or sharing a post. So for those of you who've run Facebook ads, have you ever seen Learning Limited on a campaign? Just stick your hands up if you have seen. I'm not sure who's, sorry, not everyone has their camera on, but maybe pop in the chat. Has anyone seen Learning Limited as a thing on Facebook ads? Possibly not. So basically what Learning Limited means is that, yes, someone's put their hands up, thank you. Yeah, so if you run proper Facebook ads, you'll sometimes see Learning Limited. And what that means is that Facebook can't find the first 50 results. So it can't optimize the campaign. Usually the reason for that is if the budget isn't enough. It can be other reasons too, but that's usually what it is. So when it
Sorry, Jean. We've just had a clarifying question. Would you mind explaining again, what do you mean by first 50 results? What is a result?
Yeah, so a result is basically when you create a Facebook campaign, you set an objective for the campaign, right? You tell it, I want donations in this campaign, or I want leads being people signing up to give you their email, right? So you set your objective, and then Facebook needs to go and find 50 of those results of that objective. So if you've asked for leads, it needs to, so one lead is one result. It needs to find 50 of those. If you ask for donations, one donation is one result. It'll find 50. It needs to find 50 donations. Does that make sense? I clarify it? Yeah. So you tell Facebook what you want, and then Facebook needs to find 50 of that thing in order to optimize the campaign. And if it can't find the first 50, then you're going to have an issue, because your campaign isn't going to work as well. It can't find the right people. It can't find the first 50, which means it can't build its model to find the rest of the audience. So without the first 50 results, the ad campaign will not perform as well. I'll go into more detail about why that is. So do you see the problem this causes when you have a high value ask, like a donation? Say you're going out asking people to donate 50 euros, or you're asking people to sign up for a membership program that costs 100 euros. Does anyone want to throw in the chat, what's the issue when you have a high value Anyone want to take a guess at that? Essentially what the issue is, it can cost a fair bit of money to acquire a high value result, right? So if you want people to donate 50 euros, chances are you're going to have to spend 20, 30 euros to acquire that donation, right? It costs money to bring these things in. And the higher value the ask is, the more it's going to cost you to get 50 of them. And if you don't get 50 of them, you're not going to get the best value on your Facebook ad campaign. So yeah, so that's just
Sorry, Jean. Another clarifying question is probably best to do before we move on. Someone's asked, does it always optimize after the 50 results? For example, if you had multiple settings, do some of them impact the optimizing? I've asked them to clarify, but maybe, or maybe they could unmute themselves and clarify.
Yeah, I was talking about like you have some automatic settings and some you can like really specify them yourself. So I wonder if it makes a difference.
Yeah, so there are automatic optimizations that Facebook does, and then you can also apply optimizations yourself. So for example, once Facebook has the 50 results, it knows who the audience are, it's building the statistical model. We can't do that, only Facebook can do that. But you can do things like, say you're testing 10 different images in your ads, and you can see which two are working the best and which two aren't performing. You can take out the ones that aren't performing, and that optimizes the campaign as well. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. But yeah, like sometimes a campaign won't find the first 50, or sometimes there's just not a huge audience and it might find the first 50 but then only get another 10 maybe after that. It just really depends on the campaign. It's kind of a tricky question, but for things like low value asks, like a lead or an engagement or a video view, you shouldn't have a problem getting the first 50 and then getting a lot more at a really good cost per result once it's had the first 50.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So yeah, so that the first 50 is a really core concept that you need to have with your Facebook ads. And when you're setting your budgets, and I go into more detail in the takeaway guide about when you're setting your budgets, you need to calculate and go, well, we need to get 50 in order for the campaign to work. So we need to possibly spend more than we're used to spending. I'll go into more detail about that in a minute. So choosing the right objective is the first number one on this list because it's super important. So basically, if you've ever set up a Facebook ad, you'll see this. It gives you all these different campaign objectives when you start your campaign. And it's the first thing you select. The first thing you do is tell it, what kind of campaign is this? What do we want out of this campaign? So you can do all kinds of things. You can do awareness, you can do engagement. And yeah, once you click into an option, it gives you more sub options. So for example, under awareness, there's reach, video views, store location awareness, etc. It's really important to choose the right objective. There are lots of options. Some are very strategic and useful and some are not. And a really important thing to remember of Facebook ads is that Facebook is extremely literal. It's basically a robot. You're speaking to a robot and saying to it, this is what I want. So I mentioned about the first 50 results. So if you ask Facebook for video views and say, find people who will, if you ask Facebook for video views, what that literally means is find people who will watch our video. Facebook is extremely literal. It does not mean find people who will watch our video, pay close attention to it, listen to the call to action, and then respond to the call to action to donate. That's not what you've asked for. You just asked for video views. And it's a really, really important concept to keep in your mind. And one of the problems with these sort of easy, like top of funnel asks is you can just find people who watch videos on Facebook all day. There are people who just watch videos on social media all day long and they'll never click through. They just scroll. And if you ask for video views, that's essentially what you're asking Facebook to give you. When it comes to traffic, a lot of people will run traffic campaigns because it's sending people to their website. But again, it doesn't mean find people who will click on our link, go to our website, read the page carefully, think about it, sign up for the call to action. It just means send people to our website. And I think this is something, Facebook doesn't make this clear. It's where people really fall down. You need to pick the right objective. Sending people to your website does not mean sending the right people to your website. It just means sending people to your website. And there are people, again, who just click around all day. I don't understand that behavior at all, but they definitely exist because I've seen it on traffic campaigns that organizations have set up. They tend to send really poor quality traffic. And you can tell, you can look at Google Analytics and it'll say, these people have clicked and they've only spent 3 seconds on the page. They're not reading the page. They're not going to convert. So it's really, really easy to get them wrong. And the wrong objectives will waste your budget. And what I would say is avoid most of the awareness objectives. They're just worthless. They're not useful. So things like brand awareness, reach, video views, all, you know, traffic, all you're doing is just getting Facebook to get a load of people who just click around and watch videos all day, and not people that are actually interested in your cause. And because the Facebook ads are so specific, you can instead say, I want people who are interested. I want people who are going to sign up. I want people who are going to convert and donate. So the ad objectives, there's two ways to use them. If you want to use objectives like engagement or video views, I would only use them in a multi-step campaign. I would never just push a piece of content out to an audience without some kind of follow-up for them. And that's one of the reasons why I don't recommend boosting posts, because all it lets you do is push it out. So what you can do is instead you can run a video views campaign, and then you can target everyone who watched the entire video. So there's a real problem with videos on Facebook of people just watching the first 3 seconds and not watching the whole thing. So what I would do if I was running a video campaign I would target run a video view campaign, and then find the audience that watched to the end, and then target them with a follow-up. But when you're short of time and budget, I would skip that type of thing completely. This is only really for bigger organizations that have more budget to spend and can be running multiple campaigns at the same time. When you're short of time and budget, I would focus on more immediately measurable campaigns. And by immediately measurable, I mean you can see right away whether it worked or not. So things like leads, where you can see if people are signing up. And once they've signed up, you have their email address or their phone number, and then you can stay in regular contact with them. And I would say if you're running ads and you're just doing engagement or video view ads, just make sure they're part of a funnel. Make sure it's a 2-step thing. You're going out with an engagement piece first, and then you're following up. If you're just doing the engagement piece, it's not going to deliver anything for you. It's just generating engagement, but you're not actually closing that loop at all. I hope that makes sense. So then, setting an adequate budget. This is the really important part. Where organizations fall down on Facebook is not spending enough, and it's this catch-22 where organizations are spending these small amounts, so like 100 quid here, 75 here, 50 euros here, getting nothing out of all of those, but then that adds up to a significant amount over the year. It might be 500 to 1,000 euros over the year, but none of that's achieving anything. So when it comes to setting an adequate budget, you're going to go back to your objective. You asked for leads in this campaign, or you asked for donations in this campaign. So how many results do you need for any campaign? Anyone want to throw it in the chat? I said it a lot a few minutes ago. How many results do you need for a campaign to work? You need 50. Yeah, thank you, Miriam. Yeah, absolutely. So you need 50. And the higher value the result is, the more it's going to cost to run the campaign. So so as I mentioned, a donation of 50 euro can cost, it really depends. It depends on your ask and your organization and how good your ads are. But you're going to have to spend money to get donations in. It's going to cost maybe 20, 30 euro to get a donation of 50 in. So to get your 50 results to optimize the campaign, you're going to have to spend 1,500 before 1,500 right away, straight out the gate, which is a lot of money. It's a lot of money for most organizations. And you might be thinking, this is something people often say to me when I tell them this. They go, oh, well, can we not just test a small budget and see what we get? Like just throw in 100 quid, throw in 200 quid and ask for donations and just see what we get. It doesn't work, and here's why. You need a big budget so Facebook can go out and find the right people. So if you give Facebook a decent budget, it can go out and find it. And you'll see this if you ever run a Facebook ad campaign and you're looking at the first 50 results coming in. The cost per result will change a lot. You'll see, let's imagine this is a ticket that's cost 10 euros, right? You'll see some people are buying the ticket, it's only costing 3 euros for those people. Some people it's costing 11, 15, you're losing money on those people. But what Facebook is doing at that point is figuring it out, right? So that's the early stage, it's figuring it out. And what it will do then, once it's got the first 50 results, and there'll be a big variance in that first 50, it'll find the best ones. It'll find the people that are coming in at the lowest cost per result, and it'll go out to more of them. So that's what it does, it optimizes. So by spending a bit more at the start, you're letting it find the best value, and then it can go out and find lots more people at that low price point, instead of you spending 11, 15 euros per sign up per sale and losing money on the campaign. And if the budget is too small, if you're only spending, say 150, say you want to sell 50 tickets at 10 euros each and you're only spending 150, Facebook just won't be able to find the right people. And when the budget's too small, the costs tend to be higher. It's kind of counterintuitive, but that's how it works. You're just not giving it enough scope to go out and find the best value. And what will happen is you'll end up getting very few donations, and they'll cost you more if you underspend on those campaigns, or very few sales. Or like a really simple way to look at it is, it's like if you had a really good salesperson and they're brilliant at converting people on the phone, but you're like, you could only call people for half an hour a week. and they're just not going to be able to call enough people to sell enough tickets. That's the analogy that I think works quite well. Or another way to look at it is, if you've ever had to get printing done, like me, you've probably been horrified at how expensive printing is if you're only getting, say, 4 copies of a brochure done. But if you're getting 1,000 copies, it's much, much cheaper. Facebook works like this on economy of scale, and particularly when you're doing things like donations, sales, anything that's bringing in money, you're going to need to spend more money to make it worth your while. See, there's a just in the chat. Yeah, people answer about the 50. So how you set a proper budget is figure out a cost per result, estimate a cost per result, and multiply it by 50. And where you get this information from is, you can look, if you've run ads before, you can look at the data and what you've got before. You can look at other channels. So if you're say if you put a ad in a local magazine, and the ad cost us €1,000 and we always get about 100, the cost per result is about 10. So you could use that. It won't be exactly the same on Facebook, but at least it's a benchmark that you can use. Or you can go online and find benchmarks for the kind of costs. So what you're going to need to do, that's the minimum you need to spend, because you need the campaign to find 50 of these results and then optimize. And then you can set a target for the rest. So for example, if you want to get 100 new donors, you need to budget for 50, and then for the optimization part, and then budget for another 50 for the ongoing campaign to find the best value of those. In the takeaway guide, I've gone into more detail about sample budgets and how you can calculate them, and some sample cost per result for lead campaigns. And you need to add VAT as well. It'll charge you VAT. So you can see why, when it comes to things like donations or sales, it can be expensive to do Facebook properly. And that's why I'm recommending you focus on a lead campaign, which is much cheaper to run. And yeah, I'll explain all the benefits of a lead campaign. The next piece of advice is to use broad targeting.
Sorry, Jean, I think there's a question I think probably is only relevant to what you just talked about, which is, what if you run the same campaign at different times of the year? Can you use the learning from previous campaigns to use a smaller budget to get similar results?
100%, yes. That's a really good question, Miriam. Yes, one of the advantages of doing paid Facebook as well is you can learn from each campaign. So yeah, absolutely, you can run a campaign, do split testing, different audience testing, and then take the learnings from that and apply it to a new campaign. Yeah, 100%. And yeah, you should always be looking to improve your cost per result, and there's a few different ways you can do that. So yeah, it's a great question. Is there another question there? Yeah, great stuff. So yeah, just in the chat, if you could say, those of you that are running ads, how are you targeting those ads? I'd be interested to hear. Does anyone have any insights on how you're anyone who's running ads? Quite a few of you said you are doing ads. How are you targeting your ads generally? Yeah, Miriam, Facebook can use the learning. Yeah, like you can save audiences and things like that from ads. And you can also just pull learnings out yourself, like which creative performed best, which message performed best, which audience performed best. So, but yeah, Facebook does learn. It does learn. The more campaigns you run, the more data you're giving it on your followers. So people are answering the question about how they usually followers and people who look alike, but also people who viewed our events. Yeah, that makes sense as an audience. Miriam says look-alike audiences mostly with regional targeting. Yeah, that's good to hear. And there's loads of different ways you can target on Facebook, as you know. In the early days of meta ads, it was all about interest targeting. So you could say, I want to target people who like this organization or this person or this famous person or this issue. And you can also do location and demographic targeting. So you can target certain age groups or people in certain locations and genders. The problem with this type of targeting, it's often just based on our databases, which tend to have quite blunt information about our supporters. It tends to be quite limited. We don't know a whole lot about them. We know a little bit about where they are and what ages they are, but we don't know intimate detail about their interests the way Facebook does. And sometimes it's just based on assumptions. I remember in the early days of interest targeting, people would do a lot of like, if someone shops in Lidl, they're more likely to be interested in this. And it's just, it was all just guesswork, really. The ad algorithm has really, really improved in the last few years. And what you can do instead of this very specific targeting is use broad targeting and let Facebook do the work to find the right people. It's really, really good at it. As I said, it's incredibly powerful and it knows way more about its users than we do. Like someone on our mailing list, all we know is maybe they signed a petition and they're in Brussels. Facebook knows like what movies they like, what food they like, what like celebrities they like, which celebrities they despise, you know, all that kind of stuff. It just has so much more information than we could ever have. Also, Meta is now removing a lot of the interest targeting. A lot of it's being taken away, particularly anything around people's sort of, you know, their identity, their health, political interests. It's harder and harder to target people on those levels. So yeah, it's being taken away anyway. So the beauty of broad targeting, I've tested this a lot and it works really, really well. The concern a lot of people have is they're like, well, if we set an audience of say 1 million, won't Facebook show the ad to 1 million people and we'll run out of budget really, really quickly? That's not how it works. The way it works is broad targeting doesn't mean that it's going to show to all of those 1 million people. What it means is Meta has a net of about 1 million, which it can then go and find the right people in. So you're just giving it the permission to go and find the right people in a big segment, as opposed to limiting it to a small segment where I probably won't be able to find the right people. I will, so yeah, I would recommend at least testing broad targeting for every campaign, and you can test it against lookalike and engaged as well, and that can give you really useful insights. And broad targeting is great for bringing in a new audience. You're not talking to the same people over and over again, like you're bringing in new people. I would say the exception to broad targeting, it's definitely really good for any kind of easy, something that someone who hasn't engaged with you before might be interested in, right? So think like a lead, sign a petition. If it's an event that only costs sort of 7 to 10 euros, you might do okay with broad targeting. If there's an emergency that's in the news, say like Gaza, people are very, very aware of it and very interested in it. Broad targeting will probably work really well for that. Where you need a warmer audience is a high value ask. So if you're asking people to donate a significant amount of money, or sign up for a recurring donation, or sign up to become a member and pay, you know, 120 euros to be a member, that's when you want to go to a warmer audience, and that's when you can use engaged audiences and lookalikes and things like that. So that's targeting, and I'd say definitely test broad targeting, and there's more info in the takeaway guide about it. A really, really important thing for Facebook ads is to do creative split testing, and I would say this is probably the key takeaway of all of them. I was poking around looking at charities ads, and I saw this one from a children's charity in Ireland. This is not a creative split test. And will someone tell me why? Why is that not a test?
Is it the same?
Yeah, it's effectively the same. Yeah, thanks, Salvador. It is effectively the same. It's all the only difference is it's the icon to the left or the icon on top. That's not a meaningfully different test. It's not like one person would be like, I love this, but I can't stand this. Do you know what I mean? There's so little difference between them. And also it's a terrible ad. I'm really sorry. I you know, very much support children's health, but there's just way too much going on that ad. That's just horrendous as an ad. That's not a creative split test. When it comes to testing creative properly, yeah, Meta makes it really easy for you. It's really easy to do creative split testing. I don't know if any of you have ever done like an A/B split test on a website. It's really complicated. You know, cookies make it really hard. It's just very technically fiddly and difficult. It's really easy to do creative split testing on Meta. So what I would suggest, any ad campaign you do, test 5 to 10 image variants. There should be different images and multiple text and headline variants. So just to show where they are, this is your ad image, this is your primary text, and this is your headline. So you should be testing different variants of all of those in every campaign you do. And they should be significantly different. So not one graphic with slightly different colors, but really different, you know, a photo of a person versus a photo of a pride flag versus a photo of a stack of equipment versus an activist group, like really, really different pictures. And always include something that's very different from what you'd normally do, because I think we can fall into the trap of like always using the same type of thing to communicate, and it connects with our existing audience, but doesn't necessarily bring in a new audience. So I'm going to show you here. I have a quiz for you. This is a charity lead campaign I did a few years ago that turned out to be really successful. We ended up running it for years. It was signing people up to this Peace Charities mailing list. So in the first version of the campaign, we tested 10 different images, and these are the 10 we tested. There was 2 of them that were the best performers. So I'd like you to vote in the chat. Which 2 do you think were the best performers? Knowing what you know about ads and images and what appeals to people, which 2 do you think were the best performers? Don't worry about anyone else's guessing. Just go with your own gut. Which 2 do you think were the best? So we're saying 2 and 6, 6 and 7, 2, 6, 6 and 7. 6 and 7, 9, 6 and 8, 2 and 8. Really interesting. So lots for number 2, which is, in fairness, that's a gorgeous photo of 2 little girls. Lots for 8, which is the beautiful mother and baby photo. 4, 5, 7. You can only guess 2. 4, 5, and 7. Oops, you're all right. I forgive you. 2 and 8, 6 and 7. Yeah. Okay, so majority seem to think that 2 and 8 were the strongest pictures. There's a few guesses for a few wildcard guesses as well. 1 and 6. I'm going to reveal the answers. 4 and 7, which someone did guess. I think Miriam guessed that, and a couple of people guessed 7. So the picture of the dove, which was a stock image that I got from a free stock site, and the picture of the bombed out landscape, which the charity had taken, was one of their photographs, but it was a photograph they hadn't really used because they just thought it was not their usual thing. Like, they use these kind of pictures. So a stock image and a photo with no humans in it massively outperformed all the beautiful images of gorgeous children looking at the camera and all the things that are supposed to work really well. The reason I think these work well, and I've seen this across a lot of different campaigns, things that don't look like ads, things that are different, perform really well because people are so used to this type of imagery from overseas aid charities. It's very familiar. It's beautiful and it's very emotive, but it's really, really familiar. So something that looks different stands out in the feed. And I've tested this a load of times, and it holds really strong in all kinds of different campaigns. The ones that don't look like ads, that don't look familiar, are the ones that perform best. The creative testing makes an enormous difference. I mean, the difference in that example I just showed you, I think some of those leads were coming in at something like 60p. It was a UK charity, 60 pence, and some of the others were costing 2.75. So there's just an immense difference. If you weren't doing that testing, your campaign would cost a lot more money. And yeah, I just find it so interesting. Like, I'm from a design background. I love design. I love designing campaign graphics. But I've really learned the best thing to do is just to go out with a load of photos and see which ones work best, and then design your campaign graphics rather than spending ages coming up with your design. Because we don't know what creative works best. Like, you know, a lot of people in a charity and an agency are not the audience. You know, our assumptions are often wrong. They're based on things that have performed in the past. But, you know, there's no reason why something different can't work. And the thing is, if you give Meta, if you only do 2 designs, Meta has very little to work with. But if you give it multiple ads, it will automatically split test and find the most effective. And I mentioned that it makes creative testing really easy. It will allocate the budget for you. Like, you don't have to go in and say, okay, this image is working best. Now, like, it will start, once it figures out which image is working best, it will spend more on that image, and you don't need to like manually change it. So it's really, really good for that. And it's genuinely the difference between campaigns that work and campaigns that flop. You can get 3 times as many signups if you do proper creative split testing, and just get really good value for your campaign. And then when you find creative that works, you can build on it. Like with that piece example, so we saw the dove worked really well. We ran a second bunch of the ads with more doves, like a dove against a sunset, etc. Tested more doves. All the assets, like the landing page on the website, the printed posters, we used doves in that as well, because we knew we had the evidence that doves really connected to people about this issue. And yeah, it just makes your life so much easier, because I'm sure any of you have done Facebook ad campaigns. It's that thing of sitting at your desk trying to write the perfect Facebook ad, and it's really difficult to go, like, how do I know this is the right one? You don't need to do that. You just need to write a few different variations and test them, and Facebook will figure it out for you. And you definitely don't need to be paying an agency loads of money to do it, because I find with agencies, they often are, you know, they're often resistant to this testing approach because they want to sell themselves as we're the creative experts. We know how to do a perfect ad. But actually, no one knows how to do a perfect ad. What you should be doing is do 5 really strong versions and testing them against each other. So yeah, just create different variations and test. And there's a format on Facebook ads called dynamic creative that makes this really easy. You can have one ad and you upload 5 to 10 images, 5 descriptions, 5 headlines, and it just rotates them and tests them for you. You don't have to manually create loads of different variations. And you'll learn about what resonates with your audience. So like that example of the dove, you know, of course, you know, and again, it was kind of obvious. It was starting to think the dove is a symbol of peace, but they hadn't been using the dove in their communications. But it just sent a really strong message to people, and people connected with it. So yeah, dynamic creative. This is an example of a campaign I ran for a social enterprise that sell knitwear, and they once I set up the dynamic creative ad, it just tests everything, and it gives me the exact results. So you can see the difference here. This image of a rack of knitwear got 382 signups, 85 cents. This one, which is a slightly different picture of knitwear, like they're not that different. This one got one sign up that cost 3 times as much nearly. So this is the difference you get in these ads. And you can see here, once Facebook realized that one wasn't working, it stopped showing it to people, and the reach all went to the stronger performers. So it's really exciting. I think it's really enjoyable doing these creative split tests and just learning about what works.
Jean, sorry, another clarifying question. Someone's just asked, is split testing the same as A/B testing, or are they different?
It's different because an A/B is usually you're just testing 2 things. With a split test on Facebook, you can be testing a lot more than just 2 things. So you can test up to 10 images, 5 headlines, and 5 text variations. So 10, or say if you do 5 by 5 by 5, it'll create 125 different ads and test them all for you. So it's quite different to an A/B split test where you're literally just testing 2 things. They're both split tests, but it's not A/B. I hope that makes sense. So point 5 in the kind of key strategy thing is to give your campaign adequate time. Your campaigns need time. And again, I find a common problem is people are boosting a post for 3 days and getting nothing, running a last minute ad for an event that isn't selling for 3 days and getting nothing. Your meta ads have a lot of work to do. They have to find the first 50 results. They have to test your creative variations, and all this takes time. And last minute campaigns are tricky to make work. Your campaigns will do better if you give them a bit of time to perform. So what I'd recommend you do is review your current and potential meta ad activity and start to do fewer campaigns with more budgets in them instead of lots of tiny campaigns, if that's the way you're doing it currently. And then finally, in terms of the strategic approach, proper campaigns over boosted posts. So a lot of people mentioned they're boosting their posts. The problem with boosting posts, it's mostly a waste of money. The objectives are very limited. So I talked about how important objectives are. You can tell Facebook, go and find me people who will sign this petition, go and find me people who will donate. It doesn't give you those options when you're boosting a post. It only gives you engagement or website visitors, and both of those can be they can just send junk traffic that's not going to do anything for you. Proper ads are just more powerful. When boosted posts can work, if you have a very engaged audience, if your organic content is doing really, really well and you're getting loads of engagement, a boosted post can work because the audience is already there. But just make sure you're tracking it. Make sure you know if you're spending money on boosting a post and there's a call to action link in it, that you're tracking that link so you know exactly how many results, donations, or whatever it is you've asked for come through that boosted post. So yeah, just to summarize that, a truly strategic ad campaign has these ingredients, which are the right objective, an adequate budget, a broad audience, creative variations, and adequate time. And that's just to always have that. And when people come to you and say things like, hey, we want to get a load of event tickets for something that's on this weekend, can you run a Facebook ad? Say we're not going to be able to do all this with this. We need to look at other channels. It's just going to waste budget if we put that into Facebook. I'm just conscious of time, so
yeah.
So what I might do is save questions till the end. Is that okay? Unless there's any kind of urgently clarifying questions.
There's one urgently clarifying question, the others we can save. So someone's just asked, what do you consider adequate time, like long? Does that start at 1 week or more like a month?
Yeah, I would say like 1 to 2 weeks for testing. So testing your creative variations, getting your first 50 results, and then continue the campaign for a few weeks after that. And lead campaigns are really well suited to do that. I've got more information in the takeaway guide about that, specifically about what you need to plan for timing. So I just want to make sure we have time left for questions. So a low budget meta ad campaign that works. I want to talk about lead ads. Has anyone run lead ad campaigns? Maybe just quickly pop in the chat, yes or no, if you've run a lead ad campaign. Yes, Miriam has. Anyone else? Right, okay, so I think most people are new to lead campaigns. So what a lead campaign is an ad format that allows you to capture people's contact details on the Facebook and Instagram apps, so people can sign up without leaving the apps. They don't have to click through to your website. This is very, very user friendly. You probably use them yourself as a user, like you probably signed up for a couple of different lead campaigns yourself. And the advantage is you can move people from Facebook and Instagram to a better and more reliable and cheaper form of contact. So you can capture their email, or you can capture their phone number, or you can capture both. And obviously email is an excellent channel. It's really good for cultivation and conversions. People are much more likely to seek an email from you if they're on your mailing list than they'll see a Facebook post. It's just a really good direct channel. And email gives the opportunity to talk to people, to explain an issue, and to ask them for support and get involved in multiple ways. And obviously, yeah, once you have someone's email address, it's not just a one shot, like a Facebook event ad. They'll go to the event page. If they don't book the event, that's it. You've no way of following up with them really. Or very limited ways of following up. With an email address, you can talk to them about all kinds of things. And if they're not interested in becoming an activist, they might be interested in becoming a donor or supporting you in some other way. See, what you can do with lead campaigns is build long-term relationships with your subscribers, and you'll get long-term value out of that campaign. And I would say you can run an effective lead campaign from about 500 to 1,000. If you spend too much less than that, you're just not going to get a decent chunk of signups. But between sort of 500 to 2,000 euro range, you could run a lead campaign. And what I suggest you do is to take money you're currently spending on boosting posts and put that into a lead campaign, and then measure it, and measure the signups you get, what they cost, what the signups go on to do for you, and then potentially, if that goes well, you can make the case for, let's put more budget into this and continue to grow our list. So the technical setup of a lead campaign, you have your Facebook ad with the lead form. So the lead form is in Facebook. You build it in Facebook and attach it to the ads. You will need to pass the data across to your system, whether it's your CRM or your mailing list. So there's integration services that let you do that, like Zapier, which I think it starts about 20 euros a month. So if you're running a lead campaign, you can just sign up for Zapier while it's running and then switch it off when it's finished. And what happens is Zapier will pass once they sign up, it passes their email address across to your mailing list, and you would want to have some kind of automated email triggered. So as soon as they sign up, they get an email from you. So the lead magnet, when you're doing a lead campaign, you need a lead magnet, which is basically a concept or an incentive for people to sign up. Like, why are they going to give you their contact details? It's usually not enough to just say, sign up to our mailing list. People want something else. You're going to need to make it a bit more of a hook. So there's loads of different things you can do, and I've run loads of different lead campaigns. So you can have a petition. You can have a petition. So the petition is being signed on Facebook. Essentially, it's like, fill out this form to sign this petition, and then they can go into an email journey where you follow up with them about it. Or you can offer them a discount code on something like an event or an item in your shop. You can offer them a free download, like an information pack. Or you could do a survey or a quiz. I've run mini surveys on Facebook lead ads, and they've worked really, really well. And there's loads more in the takeaway guide about the type of lead magnets you can use and how they work. If you're just doing one, if you only have the budget to do one campaign, just make sure it's something that's not too time bound. Like if it's a discount code for an event, that can work well, but then once the event is over, your campaign isn't valid anymore. So think about something that you can run for a long time, like a survey is a good example. So within a lead campaign, you're going to need your concept, your lead magnet. You're going to need an ad campaign and all the things that go into an ad campaign, like your budget, your creative variations. You're going to need an automated email journey. It's really important that people are contacted immediately and that their email addresses isn't sitting somewhere, because leads go from warm to cold if they're not contacted quickly. And then you'll need your integration system, obviously, which, as I said, is about 20 euros a month. This might sound like an awful lot and sound like a lot more hassle than just boosting posts, but it has a lot of benefits for your organization. You can run this as a long-term campaign and just have it run on a small daily budget and bring people in every day. And your email journey, once it's set up, you can use that for other channels. So people who are signing up at events or signing up through your website, they can get the same email journey, and that'll also cultivate them and warm them up to supporting you. And Zapier is a really handy tool. It does loads of other things as well. So if you have more budget to spend, if you're in the sort of, we could spend 3,000 to 5,000 a year on Facebook ads, I think it would also be worth doing an audience building campaign. There isn't time to go into it today, but there's lots more information in the takeaway guide, and a link to a webinar I did a couple of years ago that explains it all in detail. And what that is essentially is building an audience through impact stories and then going back to them using the Facebook audiences tool. So yeah, if you remember the funnel that I talked about at the start, we can use Meta to move people down the funnel. It does allow us to do that. It allows us to go from having people being aware and interested to actually actively supporting you. And yeah, what you can do is start by engaging them with stories that showcase your work, and then save the engaged audiences and go back to them with ads. And this is a great way to use Meta for growth, like to bring in a new audience, not just activate your existing audience, but bring in new people. So there's lots more about that in the takeaway guide. Yeah, that's just the process of how it works. So just a quick summary then on, I'm nearly ready to wrap up. So a quick summary on paid Meta. Like I said, organic only is just very difficult. So some of you may be making it work, but generally most organizations, it's very difficult, and it's also inconsistent, which is just not a good way to work. Political and social content is now suppressed except for ads. So we really do need to use ads if we want to talk about social issues on these platforms. Most organizations need a paid ad strategy. And once you understand the strategies that work, which is the 50 results using broad audiences and always split testing, you can do ad campaigns that will bring in a real return for your organization. I'd really recommend starting with a lead campaign, just one lead campaign, consolidate all your efforts into one good lead campaign and move people to a channel like email where you can contact them directly and you're not reliant on Facebook to talk to them. And yeah, building the in-house skills is really important. I think you can save a lot of money by being able to run Facebook ads yourself and evaluate them yourself. And it's really good professional development as well for yourselves. So in the takeaway guide, I have some links to good places to learn more and get support with Facebook ads. So I want to wrap up by talking about social and political content on Meta, because the show highlighted that there's issue. I know a lot of organizations run into issues around the restrictions. Like I said, they're now restricting social and political content. This doesn't affect ads, so really important that you have your ads, and interest targeting is disappearing, but broad targeting still works. It's really important to moderate ads to remove negative engagements. I think someone asked a question, well, we'll come to it in the questions about trolls. The problem with troll comments is Meta sees them as engagements and it goes, oh, this is the audience that's interested in this content. I'll show it to more of these people. So anytime you're running ads, it's really important to just moderate them really quickly or turn off the ad comments. It is also valid to turn off ad comments. So when it comes to the practicalities of dealing with social content on Meta, get your staff verified to run ads. There's no point trying to work around Facebook's restrictions. Just get someone verified in each country. You need one person verified with ID, and they can only run ads in the country they're in. So if you're running ads in multiple countries, you need one person verified in each country. It's a nuisance, but it's just the way the platform works. I would also say just mark your ads as political and social. It's a toggle when you set up an ad campaign. There's just trying to work around just ends up with your account, your ads getting banned. And if your ads get banned a lot, your account can then get suspended. So I just wouldn't try to work around it. If you're getting issues with approval, if you find your ads keep getting disallowed, I mean, there is an appeal center, and the appeal center I find is generally quite good. Usually ads will get approved once you put them through the appeal center, but sometimes you might use softened language. Like I know a climate organization I've worked with has had issues with the words climate change, so just use things like eco-emergency instead. Just use slightly different language to get around it if they keep getting disallowed. It's also really important to make sure your page isn't breaching any of Facebook's rules. For example, if people are using fake second profiles for work, that's very likely to get your ad account suspended and your page banned. So just make sure people are following best practice, and there's information in the takeaway guide about what is and isn't allowed. So we have an assignment out of this session. So you'll all get a template with instructions in it, but just to quickly explain what we're asking you to do. For those who are participating in the assignment, what we're asking you to do is come up with a concept for a lead magnet. So essentially think about a lead campaign and what you might do if you were just to run a lead ad campaign. So you need to come up with a concept for the lead magnet, do some very, very simple ad creative. You don't need to go away and start designing things. It's literally just finding a few photographs. And just think about what you might talk to these people about on email once you have them signed up. And again, you don't need to go and write long emails, just literally like, what would our first email be about? What would our second one be about? What are we going to ask them to do? How are we going to move them from just being an interested person who signed a petition or whatever to someone who's going to support us? And the template's provided with guidelines just to show you quickly, like you'll fit it on 1 or 2 pages. So basically what you're being asked to do is just think about your lead magnet. How will you get people to sign up? Put in 3 images, 3 ad headlines, and 3 ad texts, and then just a list of email topics, not necessarily not the full emails, just what will we talk to people about when we start contacting them. And yeah, there's a template for you to fill out, and it's also got a sample of a completed assignment, so you have a sense of like what kind of thing we're looking for. And we'll do a review and feedback session. Shall remind me when that is? Is that the 26th or doing that?
Yes, that's 2 weeks from exactly same time, 2 weeks from now. So that's the 26th, Wednesday, 26th, 12 o'clock.
Yeah, and the purpose of this assignment, I hope, is that what it would do is it will give you the core of a lead campaign that you can then go and build. And what you'll do is you'll sketch out the beginning of it. We'll give you feedback on whether it works. You'll hear from your peers as well and what works about it. And then you can go and actually implement this campaign. So we hope it'll give you a really good leg up in starting, just starting a campaign. So I've finally finished talking, and there's 15 minutes left, so we're doing good. We've time for some questions. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate there was a lot of information here, but the takeaway guide does have a lot more detail and further reading for anything that you find, that you find complicated in this. So in terms of questions, do you want to pull questions?
Yeah, maybe we can just do them in order, because I think there's only 3 unanswered ones. So there's one actually right at the beginning, which was just asking, what about Signal, Telegram as message platforms?
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people like Telegram because it's very private and safer, I believe, than WhatsApp. So yeah, absolutely. I'm not super familiar with it myself. But yeah, like if you're exploring SMS, and using these kind of channels to stay in touch, Telegram is definitely one you should be looking at. Yeah, and Signal. So I think it's a question of looking at the benefits and the features of each platform and figuring out which is best for your users. I know with Telegram, certain segments just aren't on it, so you'd have to ask them to install it, and that can often be tricky to get people to use a completely new platform. But then if you're talking about activist groups, I know a lot of activists are already using it. So yeah, I definitely explore it.
And then you actually did talk about this a little bit, but maybe people want a little bit more because I can see some people on the question of hate comments on ads they run. Miriam's asked about a way to counteract this without turning off commenting,
Sure.
and someone else has also said they for them it seems that they couldn't turn off commenting, but the only thing they could do was add negative words to a block list.
Yeah. So yeah, I need to actually, I know you can turn off comments on Facebook posts and Instagram ads. We might not be able to turn off comments in Facebook ads. They keep changing it, so I'm not 100% sure which one is which. But yeah, ideally you don't want to disable comments because engagements are good for ads. Like Facebook likes when people are commenting, it shows that they're interested. The problem is if a lot of the engagements are negative, Facebook doesn't really differentiate. So what it can do is go, oh, Jimmy the Troll has commented a lot. Let's show this to 5 more people like Jimmy the Troll. So what I would suggest you do is, yeah, do use filter words and block lists if you can, if there are particular phrases people use. That's a really good way to just cut them off at the knees, essentially. I would also say when you have a new campaign, do a lot of moderation at the start, because what essentially Facebook is finding the audience in the first few days. I said that about the first 50 results. If the first 50 people who engage are, well, yeah, people say it's an engagement campaign. If the first 50 people who engage are trolls, that's going to ruin your campaign. So I'd say very, very tight moderation at the start. And what I find is once you've hidden and blocked, I'd say block and delete, get rid of these people, get them off your page. It's your page, it's your space. They've no right to be there. That's my feeling about it anyway. Once you've blocked a lot of those people, they'll stop coming because the algorithm is like, okay, clearly this isn't the right audience, and it'll start skewing towards the right audience. And then you can go to lighter moderation and maybe just checking in once a day, you know. So I hope that helps. Yeah, it's a nuisance. It really is. And Facebook has got way worse in the last couple of years. Another option you have as well is when you're running Facebook ads is to just run them across Instagram. Sorry, I'm saying Facebook a lot, but I essentially mean Meta. So you can just choose Instagram as your placement, and Instagram tends to not be as bad. There are some trolls on Instagram, definitely, like no platform is troll free, but Facebook is way worse. So when you're setting up an ad, you can choose the placements and you can say both Facebook and Instagram or just Instagram. And certain campaigns I've just run on Instagram because of the trolls, but also because they're targeting a younger audience, and the younger audience are engaging more on Instagram than they are on Facebook. So that's an option as well. And particularly, I think for a lot of the issues you people are working on, you might be better off just running them on Instagram. Sorry, I keep saying Facebook, I mean Instagram. And like I'm in Ireland, it's a very small country. We don't have huge audiences, but if you're in a bigger population, you'll still get a really big audience on Instagram. So yeah, hopefully that's helpful in terms of dealing with them. It's also another reason why it makes sense to just do one lead campaign every year and put all your Facebook budget into that, because it's less work than moderating loads and loads of different small campaigns, because you can just moderate it very tightly in the first few days, get rid of the nasty people, and then you should be fine.
And then maybe I could give you two in one go. Someone's asking, I think, about the lead generation campaign. Is that method GDPR proof, the one about getting the emails and then moving on off the platform? And then someone else is, oh yeah, go on.
Well, yeah, so GDPR proof, technically, yes. Like it is GDPR compliant. Facebook encrypts the emails, sends them over to Zapier. Zapier doesn't keep the data, it just passes it and it deletes it after 30 days. And then you need to make sure that you're GDPR compliant when you control the data. I will say data officers do sometimes freak out about it, but it is okay. All these companies have their privacy policies and their data, deletion policies. And but yeah, Facebook also only stores the lead data for a while. It pushes it over. So or say it auto deletes it after 90 days or something like that. So your data, depending on what kind of organization you're with, your data officer might freak out about it, but that doesn't mean that they're right. And loads of organizations are running these lead ads. Like they're very, very, very widespread format. You just need to make sure that you've set it up properly. And yeah, like all of these businesses, you know, Zapier is very aware of GDPR. They're a global organization. They're based in the US, but they're a global organization. And I think they have some data centers in Europe to cover that. So yeah, like all their privacy policies there. Don't let your data protection person say contact them for a special contract, because they just won't. That's not how big tech companies work. So don't waste time on that. I've had that. Just look at their data protection privacy. But a reminder, like all kinds of organizations are using these. They wouldn't be able to do business if they weren't compliant. So was there a question about different locations there?
Yeah, you can't run the same campaign targeted on London and New York.
Yeah, so basically if you're running political ads, so and that's anything that covers political, social, like essentially we are talking about social issues, so we have to take our ads as social. Yeah, you can't target them to London and New York because you need a person in each country. So it's annoying. If they're not political and social ads, you can target multiple countries and that's not a problem. But with political and social ads, their rules are you have to have a verified person in each country where you're running ads. So what you need to do is have 2 separate campaigns, one for the UK, one for the US. And you need a person in the UK who's verified and a person in the US who's verified. It's a complete pain. And like, you know, some agencies I work with, they've had to just like make sure they have a freelancer in each country that they can turn to if someone wants to run a campaign in Italy and Slovenia, you know, that kind of thing. So it can be a nuisance, yeah. But if you're an international organization, you might have partners in other countries that you could ask to set up the ads for you. Miriam asked, can you run a lead campaign on a budget for 500 for a short amount of time and then add to the budget and extend the time if working well and you've gained the learning? That is exactly what I'd recommend you do. Test with a small budget. Just don't make it too small. If it's like 50 or 100 quid, you just won't get enough. You won't get enough of the results for it to optimize. But yeah, I think that's a really good way to work with Facebook. Start with a small budget, test, see what cost per result you're getting, and then make the case. Okay, look, we got 500 new email subscribers from this budget of 500. That's really good. Can we add another 1,000 to it and grow our list by another 1,000 people? Yeah, definitely. I definitely recommend working that way. It's a great question.
I don't think that there were any other lost questions in the chat. So obviously people can still raise their hand.
Yeah, someone called
I did want to.
Jada Martin, I think, had a question. Sorry if I'm saying your name wrong. Are they still on the call?
Maybe they can raise their hand if they do still want to ask a question over the microphone or ask it. Oh, so we've got another question in chat. Sorry.
Is there anything specific to keep in mind? So yeah, Petra asked, is there anything specific to keep in mind besides tense moderation if we work in a politically polarizing area in our country? For example, is it still recommended to do the broad targeting? That's a great question. I think it would very much depend on your ad and what you're trying to achieve. But for example, if you want to bring in a new audience of people who are interested in this issue, you'll probably need to use broad targeting to get them. If you're doing something that's more about building on support that people are already showing, so if it's like sign a petition, amplify this message, tell a friend to vote this way, something like that, then it would make sense. Yeah, if it's like you say, if it's very polarizing and you're getting a lot of negativity, to keep it to an engaged audience or keep it to a lookalike audience maybe. But I'll give you an example. Like I've recently working with a climate charity in Ireland. We've been doing this audience building where they were getting very, very little reach on their Facebook and Instagram, and we're doing an audience building campaign where we're telling stories about their work and pushing it out with ads to a big audience. And we got a lot of climate deniers in the early days. But Ireland's too small, like, for us to only target interested people, and the interest targeting is gone. Like we just couldn't just target people who are warm to climate, but people who support climate organizations but aren't already engaged with this organization, who are really the only big climate organization in Ireland. So we had to go broad. It was the only way we'd reach new people. So we did get a lot of climate deniers in the comments in the early days, and we just made sure to ban them really, really quickly. We also got they have a WhatsApp group of like active supporters and activists, and we got them to come along and just comment and share. And we'd be careful now that it doesn't seem too fake, but just even things like, just commenting a heart, stuff like that, but showing positive engagements essentially. And that really helped. And within maybe 2 or 3 stories, we got rid of the bad audience, and and now that the stories get hardly any trolls. So yeah, I think you can, it just really depends. Sorry, maybe it's like a complicated question, or sorry, it's a complicated answer, Patrick, because it depends on the country, the issue, the type of ad, like what population you have to talk to. But yeah, it's, I think if it's something very, very polarizing, yeah, it can make sense to just talk to the engaged audience instead, or do a lookalike of your engaged audience and work with those. Miriam's asked if I'm running a campaign for a fundraiser, e.g. auction, would that have to be tagged as political, social? Yes, if it's for a political or social cause, yeah, it would need to be tagged. I mean, you could try it, but I think it's a bit of a waste of time to run ads and not, you know, try and work around the political and social stuff, because they always catch them. And I think with ads, you just don't want a situation where your ads are getting disabled and banned a lot, because it pulls up red flags for Facebook with your ad account. So I would just mark it as political and social. Alexa has asked, is there a way to run an effective and budget-friendly engagement ad instead of a lead if our goal is to boost our social media presence? What would the suggested budget and duration of campaign be in that case? That's a great question, Alexa. I mean, I would ask, why do you want to boost your social media presence? Like, what is that going to achieve? I think we need to think to a longer term goal. If you're going to boost your social media presence, what is it for? Is it to raise awareness? Is it to bring in more supporters? You can do that with a lead campaign. Like a lead campaign is a more efficient way to do that, because you can go out with like a story or something that's, you know, really showcases your work with a call to action to people to sign a petition or sign a hand raiser or sign up. And you will both boost your social media presence and reach more people, but you'll also bring people in to a contact channel where you can communicate with them directly, and you're not reliant on social. Like, I would be careful about goals that are just about boosting social media. Social media is very erratic and unreliable, and you know, you don't want a situation because too reliant on social media. So I'd always be looking to ways to build your mailing list as well. Or if you've got a very young audience and email isn't appropriate, then looking at SMS channels where you can talk to these people. So yeah, but a thing you can do in terms of like reaching a new audience and growing a new audience and bringing them in is the audience building campaign that I mentioned, which is there's loads about it in the takeaway guide, and a link to a webinar as well. And that's about sharing impact stories, have an engagement objective, and then everyone who engages, you save them in the engaged audience and you go back to them with ads. For budget for that, I'd say you need to spend about 100 to 200 a month on the engagement stories and building the audience, and then maybe 500 to 1,000 on an ad campaign that goes back to them and asks them to do something for you. So yeah, that's hopefully that's useful. And yeah, in terms of duration, that's a months long campaign, you know, just like building and building and building and finding more and more interested people and letting Facebook find the people who are interested in story 1, and then using them to find people who are interested in story 2, and so on. But yeah, I've loads more about that in the takeaway guide, because it's like a whole other campaign. So yeah, we're nearly out of time, but is there any other questions?
I just want to check if there's people have any questions about the assignment. Maybe you could even scroll back to the page, to the slide on it, because it's something, if people haven't been to a skills boost before, we always do this second session, which is always a lot smaller, but I think it's really valuable when people just have a go at the assignment and then get individual feedback from an expert like Jean. You obviously can sign up for the second session even if you don't do the assignment. It's okay to be a lurker, but you get so much more out of it if you've actually done the assignment. And most people who lurk kind of wish that they had done it. So yeah, I definitely encourage people to do this, but just checking whether people completely understand it. We will explain it in the follow-up email, but while you've got Jean here. Yeah,
it's genuinely very short. Like, we're looking for essentially a 1-pager. It might go on to 2 pages once you put in a few photos, but it's essentially a 1-pager, just the core, the skeleton of a lead campaign. And what I'd be hopeful it would really help you do is get feedback at the early stage of development of a campaign. Like, is it a good lead magnet? Is it a good hook? Are your ads different enough? Is a good ad copy? And are your images strong? And then you can go away and build this campaign with having got loads of feedback and guidance at the very, very early stages. Is there any questions about the assignment? We do have lots of instructions in the template, and it also references the pages in the guide where you can go and find the background information. So I think it'll be quite a fun assignment to do. So I mean, I'm quite weird about lead campaigns, so I really love lead campaigns. So maybe I don't know, maybe other people might not feel the same, but I think they are really interesting, and it was a great question from Miriam about once you develop a lead campaign that works, you can just run it and run it. I mentioned the one the peace building charity, the one with the dove, that campaign ran for years. I actually met someone from there recently and they're like, oh, we're still running those ads. And what it did was just move thousands and thousands of people from Facebook onto their mailing list. And then, they converted loads of those people to donors. They had a really good, I think the first year, they had a conversion rate of something like 3% of those people converted to donors, which is really good. And also people did other things for them as well. They shared content, they filled out surveys, they got people to take actions for them. So it's a really powerful format. And I think, I don't know, I mean, I'd be interested to hear if anyone else feels the same, but this is me like my final wrapping up. I struggled with Facebook ads for years working in a charity and just found them to be really frustrating, that you'd be kind of guessing of what's going to work and just really hard to evaluate, is this actually doing anything for us? With the lead campaign, it's really clear, it's really measurable. We're getting people off Facebook, we're getting them onto our mailing list, and now we can talk to them. And we can also measure on email or SMS, are they responsive? What are they interested in? What are they responding to? So yeah, I hope that's leaving you feeling even a tiny bit inspired about the concept of lead campaigns.
Thanks so much, Jean. I think, yeah, we've got to wrap up now. Thanks so much for fitting so much into that time. And thanks everyone for having so many questions and getting involved in it. I really hope some of you get involved with the assignment as well and come along to the second session. But if not, it was great to have your participation already. As we've said a few times, you will get a follow-up email with all of this stuff, the guide that Jean mentioned, template for this assignment, the recording, and if you haven't already seen it, the registration link for the second session in 2 weeks' time on Wednesday the 26th at the same time, noon Central Europe time. I think everyone's in the chat is just saying thank you, Jean. So I'll say thank you as well.
Also, I appreciate it was a lot of information and that really great and interesting questions. So thanks very much.
And back to you, Katja, to, I guess, close off the session.
Yes, so thanks everyone for coming. And I mean, you said everything, both of you said everything important. You will get an email. Also, another reminder, if you have any dilemmas and questions with your work on communications, really drop us an email. And for the final thing, I can do a small commercial for our annual conference, because there is some more information out there and you can apply if you are interested. The annual ILGA Europe conference will happen in Bucharest this year. There will be more than 400 activists from Europe and Central Asia there. So it would be very nice to see some of you there. So I will put a link in the chat for you to apply and check it out if you're interested. Thanks everyone who came, and hopefully we will see you next time. And have a nice end of the day, afternoon.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.